Hello everyone, I'm Tremayne, and this is going to be my take on Black AF. It's currently on Netflix, and I think it's sitting at like number 9 or 10 at the most watched on the network right now. And this show is very divisive. It has the black community split, and I'm going to explain why. But first, if you haven't done so, please take a minute to subscribe. If you subscribe, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Every subscriber counts. Please hit that like button, because the more you hit the like button, YouTube will continue to recommend this video. So I want to get out there because I think I'm going to hit a lot of points, because a lot of people are all over the place with this show, and because I watched it, I understand why. And I wanted to clarify a few things because I've watched a few reviews, and earlier I also did a review when I first watched it, but I didn't put the review out right away because there was just so much negativity out there. I didn't want to add to it. You know, I really wanted to let it sit and marinate, and for me to really dig deep as to why so many black folks are feeling this is such a polarizing show. And they either love it or absolutely positively hate it. And some people never even made it past the trailer, and they are on Twitter and YouTube trashing something that they've never even seen. Now we're going to talk about episode 1. Episode 1 is extremely rough. That is the worst. One of the worst things they could have done is let episode 1 be the representation of people's entrance into the world of Black AF. I barely got through it. I had to turn it off a couple of times because it was crap. So it was just a really rough watch. Eventually I got to the end of the episode, and they had a really good scene at the end where the Kenya Barris and his wife, played by Rashida Jones, were out with a white couple that were trying to basically shame them for having money, and then trying to, just sort of like make fun of the black community. And then they just turned everything around and basically turned it on them, and that was funny. And we don't oftentimes get to see this. Now, it's part of the reason why I like Judge Judy, because, there are people that just have these arrogant attitudes, and Judge Judy just doesn't give it doesn't matter what color you are, Judge Judy will let you have it left and right, and these people are left shocked. And that's kind of what this reminded me of, that moment where the jaw drops to the floor because Judge Judy just laid somebody out, or put somebody out, or just put them in their place, or said, well, I'm not giving you your plane ticket, if you don't do X, Y, Z. So yeah, they kind of had that moment where they said, you're not going to make fun of us. We can make fun of us, but you can't make fun of us. And so the episode was very uneven. I hated all the kids. The kids just irked my spirit. Kenya's, people have made fun of his acting, but his acting is fine. The show is satire, and he's sort of like, he's been compared to like Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm. And if you look at it from that point of view, then you understand what he's doing. So that sort of deadpan humor, if you get it, you get it. And if you like that, then Black AF is going to be like the show for you. The kids, on one of the podcasts that I watched, the kids came up, and two of the people that liked the show actually were saying that it reminded them of Married with Children, that family was awful. Those were awful people, but we loved laughing at them, and that they were fun, and they were funny, and they were fun at being awful. And I never really looked at it that way. I understood that it was satire, and I understood it was based on his life. And so It's a satirical version of his life, and it's going to remind you a lot of Blackish, which also is a satirical look on his life. So even Tracy Ellis Ross, who plays Rainbow in the show, is a representation of his real life, his real wife, and his wife's nickname is Rainbow. That's how close this show is to his real life. And the controversy that made Black AF happen on Netflix was Kenya's frustration that ABC wouldn't let him do shows the way he wanted to do shows. Like, he couldn't talk about the football kneeling thing. I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for him. And so Netflix offered him $100 million to do shows for that network. And he took it. And Black AF is like the first show out of that $100 million that, has come into development. So a lot of people were really excited about the show, and when it was something that we're generally not used to, it took a lot of people back. And some people could watch this show and see these kids and this family and relate to the things they were going through, because Kenya has 6 kids, and on Black AF he has 6 kids. So it truly is a representation of how he's living, because even the ages of the kids are approximately the same ages of his real life kids. And he said he patterned the kids after his real kids. And I'm like, so you let your real kids talk to you like that? Because the way I grew up and the way a lot of people grew up is, I couldn't talk back to my mother like that. I couldn't curse at my mother. And if I even thought about it and she sensed it, I probably would be ducking, dodging shoes and whatnot, because she didn't play that. Even if I said, a slang word in the house, I would get popped in the mouth, because that is just not how she was trying to raise me and my brother. And when I watch this and I see these kids and I see how over the top bad they are, and in the way they talk to their parents especially, it's irritating, because I know that I really couldn't have gotten away with any of that. My mother wouldn't have allowed it, and a lot of people's mother wouldn't have allowed it. But my mother was the youngest of 11 kids. She was the youngest of 11 kids. 11. And some of my cousins, the way they treated my aunts, they cursed at them. I had one cousin who broke his mother's arm and, gave her black eyes and different things like that when he was a teenager. So I also know that you can be in a black household and get away with doing things like that. And my mother just happened to be the one that when those kids were bad, they would send them to our house for a mother to straighten them out. And when they went back saying, yes, sir, no, ma'am. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And because my mother didn't play that, she said the ground rules right away for them. And then, of course, my aunts would go back to their parenting style that got them the way they were. And then eventually, maybe 2 summers later, they're back at the house, like, having to deal with my mother again. But I just say all that to say that, every black household is not the same. Every black parent is not the same. And I think that if you really look deep into your family, there's probably some badass kids that you like, that's them. Can't be us. That's them over there. So I'll forgive the kid situation where they're just awful and they are pretentious and they don't appreciate what they have. And I think that's one of the things that is sort of irksome, to see a family get to that level of success and money and to have the children just 100% not appreciate it. And once again, that could happen to anyone. We've seen kids or people from our family move to the suburbs. We call them bougie, and those kids have no concept of where their parents may have originally come from. So I remember when your mother had roaches in her house, and it was like, you know, crazy. It was horrible. And then she met some guy, got some job with the state, and then they were able to, upgrade. But the kids never experienced the the bad part of growing up and being without and things like that. And so if they're not taught appreciation for their things, they are going to have those kind of they are going to have those kind of reactions. So I had to get out of my feelings about how they're not representing my family. They're not representing, how I grew up. This is a different part of the black community that we just have no light shined on. And so another thing I want to note is that people have been confused about what the show is. On the podcast, one of the guys said that he thought that Black AF was a reality show. He didn't even realize it was a sitcom, a situation comedy. He thought it was actually literally a reality show like Love and Hip Hop and the other stuff. And he was like surprised. I was like, no, it's not real. I mean, he's not really married to Rashida Jones. It's a satire. It's just a comedy. And the hard thing about the show is that it's uneven. It gives a lot of us what we want. Like, there's some very strong Black history moments in there where they're teaching people about different things about Black history. Same as if you watch Blackish. Blackish have definitely taken some serious moments out of Black history and done amazing episodes on them and taught people a lot of things that they may not have known or why people feel the way they feel. I think that they did a better... When I first started watching Blackish, I didn't like it. But after a few seasons, and it kind of got in that groove, now I can watch it without, I can watch it regularly. But when it first came on, I wasn't really feeling the show. I didn't like the way the father treated Junior. I didn't like any of that. But now, he's older, things have changed. They have a little more respect for each other. And there was a progression. And I think if Black AF gets another season, I think it will, because it was so controversial. I think it will get a second season. That I'm hoping that they focus on a lot of the things. Like, it shows lots of promise and potential, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. And I want to talk about my next bullet point, because I created bullet points to make sure I stayed on topic. That Blackish versus Black AF. Blackish is what Kenya said was when he was living a suburban lifestyle where his wife, just like Rainbow Johnson, is a doctor. She's an anesthesiologist. She's biracial. And a lot of her is patterned after his real wife. And then, like I said, he got a $100 million deal. He's done movies. He's had all these shows. He now has money. So now we're seeing Blackish to the next level. And it's showing us what it's like now that he's no longer in the suburbs. Now he's rich and he has money and wealth. And the first episode, even though it was really rough, one of the main points he was trying to make was he buys a lot of things. His tennis shoes, $2,000 sweatsuits, his car, his house, all these different things that he has. He was questioning, am I getting this stuff that's like over the top expensive because I like it, or is it because it's what I think that I'm supposed to do? And if he had really honed in and focused on that more, and maybe focused less on the children and really focused on the main bullet point topic for the episode, I think that it would have been a much more well received episode, but they didn't do that. The number one problem with Black AF is the name. I really, really feel like if it had a different name, people expectations would have been different. And this is why. When you say Black AF, you know what AF it means. When you say Black AF, then you're now in the minds of the people of black folks. You're going to get polarizing views on what it means to be Black AF. And so for some people, you got one side where being very hood is like the ideal Black AF. And somewhere in the middle, you're going to get the militant folks. The militant folks that want to beat home in the hoteps. They want to beat home certain issues, and they want to focus really in on how we've been wronged. And then on the very other end of the spectrum, you've got the cultured folks, the neo-soul folks, the folks that really want to focus on the black history and the culture, and they want to see the richness of the culture. Like, there's a really good episode where they focus on this painting that he brought and the meaning of the painting, and how even he didn't quite get the meaning, and then they had the actual painter come in and explain it, and then everyone started to get what the painting really meant. And that's what the cultured folks in the community would really want to hone in on, because that's something they would love. And he talks about our history and our culture and how everybody's not going to like everything. And so there's the other topic. And this is the biggest thing that I hear folks talking about the most. We know we have a huge colorism problem in the black community. I'll say it again. We have a very huge colorism problem in the black community. You know, we all are pretty much part of the rainbow, but we still have this issue with the people that were in the field versus the people who are in the house. And some people still hold on to that slave mentality of they have those same feelings and emotions that have been carried over generation to generation, whereas we're no longer in the fields, we have our own houses, you know, but those ideas, that mentality has been carried on and passed on, you know, from one generation to the next. And this new generation, fortunately, is changing. There's lots of bright spots in the youth of today and their idealism and how they see the world and how things are changing, especially like being able to see we had a black president, a black first lady, and that we have all these opportunities, and you can clearly see it better as long as you're not like people like Stacey Dash. You can see clearly white supremacists in their agenda and what's going on in the world. I mean, if you're a black person and you're defending Trump, yeah, you're not paying attention to what's really going on. Or you don't care. Or you feel like it doesn't directly affect you. Or, you know, maybe for financial reasons, you're in a tax bracket where you don't have to worry about the rest of us. But anyway, I don't get off topic. But the colorism in the community was based on the kids and the mother. Now, Rashida Jones was viciously attacked on social media because they're like, who's this white woman playing his wife? And then for people who are part of the uninitiated, they're like, you know, her last name is Jones because that's Quincy Jones' daughter. And they go, what? Yeah, she's biracial. So when her character's on the show saying, I'm a black woman, then people are like, no, you're not, you're white. And they've seen her traditionally in white roles or ambiguous roles. And so this show is patterned off of Kenya Barrett's real life. The kids on the show are patterned off of what his real kids look like in real life. It's not just their ages, but he picked actors that look similar to his actual kids. His wife is biracial. His kids are by default biracial, so they're light skinned. So as much as people want to say, "Hey, wait, what are you doing?" His wife is an actual is biracial, just like on Blackish. Remember, this is Blackish carrying over to what Blackish would be if that family had money. So there's nothing wrong with him saying, "This is my life, this is my wife, these are my kids, this is what we look like, and this is what we go through. This is, a satire based on our life, along with real things that have happened in our life." And the colorists are just like, why are they light skinned? Well, did you actually look into why they're light skinned? There's a reason. It's sort of like, this is where I am with colorism. I think it was Zoe Saldana that played Nina Simone. And I was one of the biggest people saying, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. If you know anything about Nina Simone, you know that there was a lot of issues with people judging her because of her skin complexion. She had a lot of racist things happen to her because of skin complexion. Her music dealt with saying how beautiful her black skin was and how beautiful black skin is. And so to have a biracial, light-skinned woman have to wear blackface to play the role, Nina Simone would be rolling over her grave. And for the people who said, well, if Zoe Saldana didn't play this character, the movie wouldn't have got made. I can tell you now, Nina Simone would have said, don't make it. So that's a real life person that was dark skinned, and it needed to be played by Viola Davis, Tika Sumpter, somebody like that. There's plenty of dark skinned actors out there that could have played that role. And, when it comes to colorism, that was 100% wrong. That's colorism done wrong in media. But somebody taking, his real life and his real family and taking their real image and finding actors that look like them to play them, which is what you do, that's not colorism. That's reality. So you've got people that just complain for the simple fact that they're light skinned. And ironically, one person, I just turned off his review because he was complaining that the characters were light skinned, but he also mentioned Tika Sumpter on Mixed Dish playing a role that was originated by Anna Devere Smith, who she's light skinned. I think she looks biracial. I don't know if she actually is, but clearly we all recognize that this will be Rainbow Mother, and her father on the show was white, and her mother light skinned. And when they did the show Mixed Dish, they did something different. They cast Tika Sumpter, who is a dark skinned woman, to play the role that originated by a light skinned woman. And I'm like, you can't win. You can't win. So they cast a dark skinned woman in the role, you complain. And on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they went from a dark skinned woman to a light skinned woman. And if you look at Janet Huber's anything that she's done on social media, any of her interviews since then, the bitterness that she still has to this day, like 20, 30 years later, you can understand why they probably let her go. I wasn't there. I don't know. But they could have replaced her with a dark-skinned actress. I'm just saying. I get it. Colorism. I get it. Even like Bernie Mac had to fight to keep the kids dark skinned on his show, which was, he fought against colorism for that. There was My Wife and Kids. One of the daughters, I think this is the show where one of the daughters was dark skinned in season 1, and then season 2, they got a biracial actress to play her. Got it. Colorism. Black AF is not colorism. It's just they're portraying real life people, and this is what they look like. Now let's get off of colorism. We know about that in the comment section. Now, I think the biggest thing that problem that I have in the black community as far as media and representation, and what a lot of people also have problems with when it comes to media and representation, is that we typically don't control our image. Our image, whether it's music videos, TV shows, BET. I mean, BET is owned by Viacom, which is white folks. So Bob Johnson gave that up. So it's not like we're running the show and controlling our image. I think one of the few places where we control our image is OWN temporarily, because Oprah gave up most of her majority stakes in a company, and soon she's just gonna be a figurehead, and she's moving on to other projects. So soon owned by Discovery Channel. That whole channel may change once Oprah is not running things. And Bounce, a lot of people don't know Bounce TV even exists. It has this really good show that I like to watch on air, called Saints and Sinners. And Saints and Sinners is an excellent show, and they also have some comedies on there and different things. And the majority of the people that own Bounce TV are black, but we don't typically control our image. So when a show comes out, and especially a show named Black AF, then people get excited at the idea that it's us representing us. And then when they watch the show and they can't relate to the things that are happening on the show, they don't understand this particular type of satire. That's when we get the divisive in the community, because they're not watching the show and judging it for what it is. They're watching the show in hopes of it being what they want. And it's what some people want, it's what some people don't want. And then once something begins being trashed on social media, then people who've never even seen the show just jump on the bandwagon, create memes, and it just goes downhill from there. And I'm going to end this on a high note. Overall, I didn't like the show. Except there were 2 episodes that I thoroughly enjoyed from beginning to end. My favorite episode of the 8-episode season is episode 5. I've been telling people, you don't have to watch the whole season, but just watch episode 5. And that will be, especially if you're a creator, if you're a writer, producer, director, this is a great episode for you to watch. You don't have to watch any other stuff. It's just going to make you mad. But episode 5 and episode 8, what episode 5 did is, it was a much more relatable episode, because not only did it have the regular cast in it, but his family had come over for a cookout or something, I can't remember. And a lot of the people in his family are the type of family members that people were hoping would be on the show as regulars. And it was sort of like a breath of fresh air to sort of get what we view as real people on the scene. Some people will look at them and say, well, they finally added the stereotypes to the mix. But I could look at those people in their representations of who they were and can say, oh, that's just like my cousin, or that's my aunt, oh, that's my other aunt, and or friends. There were people on there that I could relate to, what they were saying, what they were doing, how they were thinking. And I don't have $100 million. So maybe I can't relate to, you wearing $2,000 sweatsuits that look like, I didn't like it. You could have got that from Walmart for all I knew. It wasn't anything special about it to me. And to find out how much it cost just felt like a waste of money. So that was one of the best episodes, or the best episodes of the season. Watch episode 5, and then maybe you can go back and watch the other episodes, and they won't seem to suck as much when there's other good things on the horizon. Episode 8, which is the last episode, is also a very good episode. And what this episode represented more than anything else was family. And not like the family reunion type scene they had in episode 5, but it was, oh, he invited his family over because he saw a black film, he didn't like it, and he wanted to get other people's opinions, and he felt like his family would keep it real. And so, he invited them over to watch a screening of this film. That's what it was about. That's what they were doing. And in episode 8, it's like a 2-part episode, and they're on vacation. I can't remember where they went. He had got a private island for his wife's book release and different things like that. And the cinematography was beautiful, definitely beautiful. And the kids were not irritating. They didn't make me mad. There was one scene where the sister was playing spin the bottle with a bunch of her friends and her younger sister. And her younger sister was reluctant to kiss a guy because it would have been her first kiss. And she was feeling peer pressured. And I felt like, her sister should have protected her instead of leaving her out to dry. Like, look, you want to be grown, this is what grown folks do. Didn't like that. But other than that, the episode itself was good. I appreciated it. The family was acting like a family. And as it ended, I really felt like they were a family for the first time. So my recommendation is watch episode 5, 7, and 8, because 7 is the first part episode of 8. So watch 5, 7, and 8, and then go back and watch the other stuff. And then you'll see the reason why people are mad and upset. And some of the things they say, which I think is meant to be satire, are triggering for people. And they're triggered because they don't realize it's a joke. So at the end of the day, you got to watch it for yourself. I've given you a half hour of my opinions of Black AF and what I think is good, bad, about the episode. And I say give episodes 5 and 8 a try, 5, 7, and 8 a try, and then let me know in the comment section what you thought about the show. If you've already seen the whole season, we can discuss that too. I'm going to put this on both of my channels. And I'll be looking in the comment sections to see what you thought about this. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I didn't trigger you too much. And see you in the comment section.
All right.